And for me, I just started selling drugs. You know, that at that time, I had saw an opportunity to sell drugs to my friends to make enough money to support my own habit, because that was really what I wanted. I'm just going to take Oxycontin every single day because that's the only time that I've ever really felt peace within myself. And with kids that, you know, had money, or parents that were putting money in their bank accounts, mine weren't doing that. It seemed like a great idea to, you know, I'll sell cocaine, sell these guys weed, and then I'll take the money that I make from that and I'll buy my pills. But eventually that all changed. You know, the mom caught the kid, started locking him up. You know, this is early 2000, like early 2000s. A lot of people, their understanding the opioid epidemic is like 2010 and on. Like, I know it from the very, very beginning, right? When pharmacies were actually running out of these pills, like more often than not. And you had to go find people that had these pills. Not everybody had them, you know, before the pill clinics really started popping up and stuff like that. And so we would go to the street to try and find them. Found some people on the west side of Fresno. You know, next thing you know, it's just everything changed real fast.
So let's talk about that. Like, I want to hear about, like, at what point did it become addiction? First of all, like withdrawal symptoms and all that. And then were there any gnarly stories around like selling drugs? Like, that sounds dangerous.
Yeah. So I remember this night I was still living at my parents'. I moved to San Diego for a computer job. That didn't work out. I came back home. I started selling drugs. I'm still living at my parents'. They're about to kick me out of the house. And I remember I couldn't sleep. And my legs were like so restless, and I felt feverish, and I didn't know what it was, and shook it off. I was like, oh, maybe I'm getting sick. And the next day I'm getting around people and I was like, man, I think I'm getting sick. Like, I couldn't sleep last night. And this guy goes, bro, you're withdrawn. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, bro, you're withdrawn. It's like from the 80s, bro. And I didn't know what that was, but him telling me that like wrecked me.
Yeah.
Because now there was a correlation between these flu-like symptoms and I just need to get the pill.
Yeah.
So now my mind, when I feel the flu-like symptoms, starts to obsess with the idea that just go get another pill and this feeling goes away. And that was when I would drive 3 hours at 3 o'clock in the morning after spending 5 hours to try and find somebody that had 180 milligram pill. Like, I'll go to Merced, Modesto, Stockton, Los Angeles. If somebody says they have one, I'll drive through the night to go get it to stop those withdrawals from happening. I remember the first time my mom actually saw me detoxing, and I was in the bathtub, scalding hot water, you know, and you've got just the shakes, and I'm freezing cold, and I'm in scalding hot water. And my mom, she's just looking at me so confused because she doesn't understand this realm of life, right? And I'm just screaming at her, please call this dude. Please just call this guy and get me the fucking pills. And she's, you know, she won't. My mom wasn't that mom that was like, I'll go do it because that's what's going to stop my son's suffering. And I'm glad that was the only part of things that my parents saw, because they kicked me out of the house shortly after these things and just had to remove me from the home, you know?
Yeah. So tell me about that. What was that interaction like?
I woke up one morning and my mom found a 1/4 pound of weed in my backpack in my car. And she was actually going to flush it down the toilet. And my dad was like, what the fuck are you doing? You don't know whose that is. And if he owes anybody money, you're not doing that. And they let me keep the drugs because of my dad, you know, having kind of the knowledge to say, I don't know that you should be flushing that down the toilet. And my dad, this is one of the hardest moments of my life. I didn't have anything. My dad shut the garage, and I recently told this story on my Instagram. My dad shut the garage, and like right before he pushed the button, he said, don't ever forget this. Family's all you have. Push the button, the garage door closes. And it's like, I'm right back in that ring again. I'm by myself. I don't know where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do. Like, just life starts to get more confusing. Like, it's just crashing down. And I'm so young at this point. Like, I'm 18 years old. Like it's just crashing down, and it spiraled so fast for me. Like from 18 to 23, I was homeless by 23. You know what I mean? And then it's like the things that happen and you still don't realize you have a problem. You know, I was stabbed in a drug deal that went wrong. Can
you tell me that story?
Yeah. So a lot of my friends that I went to school with started distancing themselves from me because it was clear that I'm out of control. So they distanced themselves from me, which means I'm going to start finding new people who are using drugs, and kind of we have that in common. The problem was these people don't know me. They don't care about me. And some of these people were working with the cops. We had an OxyContin task force that was developed in Clovis, California, because it was an OxyContin hotbed for pills. And I knew some of these guys were working with the cops in terms of like snitching and stuff like that. But I didn't care, because I needed to be around people who could get me these drugs. Well, one day I'm with this guy who ended up dying in a jail cell when he was arrested, a handful of years ago. We pulled up into this liquor store. We call them liquor stores in California, but they're like gas stations. We sell liquor in California at gas stations. And he gets out of the, he's going to get out of the car, but this guy comes up to buy the pills out of his car window. He's got the window down and he's got this pill bottle in his hands. And the guy reaches in and like slaps the pills out of his hand. The pills go flying everywhere into the parking lot. And I'm a little confused because this guy knows this guy. I'm like, bro, what just happened? And he was like, he couldn't say anything. I was like, did he jack you? Is he trying to rob you? He's like, yeah. I'm like, he's right there. He's right behind the car. What the fuck are you doing? Get out of the car. Let's go. He had these handcuffs in the little, you know, those little door pocket, little cubby things. Yep. There was a handcuff in there. So I grabbed this handcuff and put it around my hand as like a brass knuckle. Well, I jump out of the car. I'm going to go get this guy. He's right there. So I walk behind the car, go over there, and I start to fight this guy. And as I'm fighting this guy, like I feel like this feeling in my arm, like, damn, this guy punches hard. And he like looks at me, and I remember connecting with his eyes, and he's like, you like getting stabbed, motherfucker? And I remember like, whoa, what? And I looked down and he hit me in the front. He hit me right here. He hit me in the back, and I'm like drenched in blood. And I like fall down because I'm like in shock now. Like, cause I just realized, oh my God, like this guy's been stabbing me this whole time. And I remember he ran back to his car. The guy that was in the car with me finally jumped out of the car and like tried to stab the dude's tire or something. And they took off. We get in the car and we go to my apartment. We don't go to the hospital. And I tell my girlfriend, like, we got to go to the hospital. I've been stabbed. And she's like hysterical because I'm like, it's so weird, like huge, like the amount of blood that comes out when you get stabbed is wild. And like your skin, like mine was like fluttering. It felt like it was like fluttering the whole time. And we drove to the hospital, and I spent 2 days in ICU. When they stabbed me, I had, I think it was like emphysema, where there's like basically moisture between my skin and my lung. Okay. And so they were worried that the moisture was actually going to cause my lung to pop. Right. So it basically stopped right before my lung and the one in the back. Yeah. And so they stapled all of these wounds closed, and then they had me in ICU. And when they had me in ICU, you know, they treat you back then pretty harshly. Right. You know, I was listening to them tell my girlfriend, you got to get away from this guy. He's a piece of shit, you know, outside the room. Like, what are you doing with this guy? It really seems like a theme
of these people just not giving you the benefit of the doubt and being really hard on you in your situation.
Yeah. And I'm not going to blame them. Right. But at the same time,
but like, man, like
there just could have been a different way of doing things. Yeah. You know, and that's probably why I'm so passionate about the work I do as a speaker, especially in the healthcare market, is like, you know, words matter. Yeah. And even though you don't agree with things, you can still treat people like a human being. And to me, that's the most important thing, because every avenue I went as I was spiraling more out of control I was met with stigma, and I was met with belief systems and people that didn't understand who Tony was, why Tony was going through what he was going through, and just what that felt like. Yeah. And so when I hear you say, you got to get away from this guy, he's clearly a piece of shit and he's going to bring your life down too. you're putting me back in the ring and I'm feeling all alone and I'm in this room by myself with all these things hooked up to me. And again, I'm just alone, trapped, confused, abandoned, and can't make sense of anything. Well, they bring this kid in, who had been in a car accident and had been majorly burned. And he was like screaming for his life. I'll never forget this. And they obviously closed the curtain, so I couldn't see him. But I was withdrawing so bad. They would take my blood pressure, and I was high on meth, and so my blood pressure was through the roof, right? So they're not going to give me any pain meds because my blood pressure indicates that I'm high on some type of amphetamine, and so they're not going to knowingly speedball me.
Yeah. Right.
So they come in and they say, Anthony, have you taken any narcotics? No. Okay. We'll come back in a little bit and we'll check your blood pressure again.
Yeah.
Or, Anthony, are you sure you haven't taken anything? And I probably could have gotten the pain meds if I told them I was under the influence of meth, right?
Right.
They may have actually given me something. So when they closed the curtain, there was a phone that was right behind me. And so I get on this phone while this kid is screaming, and I'm calling people, somebody bring me an oxy. I need an 80. I'm withdrawing so bad right now. And finally I got somebody to get me some 80s, and they gave them to my girl, and they crushed them up and had them all pre-set up for me in a cigarette cellophane bag. So when she came in, she handed me the bag, and I was on an ICU gurney, snorting Oxycontin to stop the withdrawals. Like just insanity.
Well,
left there and still didn't think I had a problem.